The betrayal at Kepler Station, the morning sun of Kepler 442b, cast golden light through the massive observation windows of Kepler Station. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the main laboratory, her hands trembling slightly as she adjusted the xenobiology scanner one final time. Today was the day that would change everything for humanity's place in the galaxy. Elena, the Zephyrian delegation has arrived. Captain James Mitchell's voice crackled through her communicator. As head of station security, he'd been on edge for weeks preparing for this historic moment. Ambassador Crickstall is requesting to meet with you before the ceremony. Elena took a deep breath and smoothed her lab coat. After 3 years of careful negotiations, humanity was finally going to sign a formal alliance with the Zephyrian Collective. These advanced beings possessed technology that could solve Earth's energy crisis and open new frontiers for human expansion. The peace treaty would mark humanity's true entry into galactic civilization. Kepler Station bustled with activity as 3,000 souls prepared for the ceremony. Scientists from 12 human colonies had gathered to witness history. Families had traveled from Earth itself, bringing their children to see the moment when humanity would no longer stand alone among the stars. The station's corridors echoed with laughter, excited conversations in a dozen languages, and the gentle hum of hope. In the diplomatic wing, Ambassador Crickstall waited in the reception chamber. The Zephyrian stood nearly 8 feet tall, his crystalline skin reflecting the station's lights in mesmerizing patterns. His forearms moved with fluid grace as he examined human art displays with what Elena interpreted as genuine interest. Dr. Vasquez. Crickstall's voice resonated through a translation device, creating harmonious tones that seemed almost musical. Your species continues to fascinate us. Such determination, despite your obvious limitations. Elena felt a slight chill at his words, but attributed it to nerves. She had spent months learning Zephyrian customs and protocols. We're honored by your presence, Ambassador. Our research teams are excited to begin collaborative projects. Indeed, Crickstall's eyes gleamed with an emotion Elena couldn't identify. Today will be remembered as the day everything changed for humanity. The ceremony hall filled with delegates from both species. Children pressed against the viewing windows, their faces bright with wonder as they watched the elegant Zephyrian. Ships docked alongside human vessels. The contrast was striking. Human ships built for function and durability, while Zephyrian craft seemed to flow like liquid metal, their surfaces rippling with contained energy. Captain Mitchell positioned his security team at strategic points. Throughout the station, something felt wrong, but he couldn't identify the threat. The Zephyrians had arrived with a larger fleet than expected, but they claimed it was for ceremonial purposes. Their ships maintained perfect formation. There. Weapons powered down according to protocol. President Maria Santos appeared on the main screen from Earth, her face beaming with pride. Citizens of Earth and our new Zephyrian friends, today we write a new chapter in the story of humanity. We join the galactic community not as conquerors, but as partners in building a better future for all sentient life. The applause was thunderous. Elena felt tears in her eyes as she watched families embrace. Scientists shake hands with their Zephyrian counterparts, and children wave at the alien delegates. This was everything humanity had dreamed of since first looking up at the stars. Ambassador. Crickstall stepped forward to the ceremonial podium. The translation device amplified his voice throughout the station and broadcast it to the entire galaxy. Humans of Earth, you have requested to join our collective. You have shown us your science, your art, your potential. Elena noticed something in his tone that made her stomach tighten. The word potential seemed to carry a weight that didn't match the celebration around her. We have studied your species carefully, Crickstall continued, his forearms spreading wide. We have watched your wars, your struggles, your desperate attempts to reach beyond your small world. You have shown us exactly what you are. The crowd began to murmur. Something was shifting in the ambassador's demeanor. His crystalline skin had taken on a darker hue, and his eyes now burned with cold contempt. You are weak. You are primitive. You are inferior vermin who dare to believe you belong among true civilizations. The words hit the ceremony hall like a physical blow. Elena gasped as she saw the hatred in Kriegstall's face. Around her, the celebration died as confusion and fear took hold. We did not come here to make treaties. The ambassador's voice now carried a metallic edge that made everyone step back. We came here to remind the galaxy what happens to species that overestimate their worth. Captain Mitchell's hand moved to his weapon, but it was already too late. The Zephyrian ships surrounding Kepler Station lit up with energy signatures that overwhelmed the station's sensors. The elegant vessels that had seemed so beautiful moments before now revealed their true nature as instruments of destruction. All hands, battle stations. Mitchell's voice boomed through the station's communication system. This is not a drill. Evacuate all civilians to emergency pods immediately. Elena watched in horror as the first energy beams struck the station's outer hull. The impact sent shockwaves through the structure, throwing people to the ground as emergency lights bathed everything in red. Children screamed as their parents tried to shield them from falling debris. The Zephyrian weapons were unlike anything humanity had encountered. They didn't simply destroy, they unmade things at a molecular level. Where the beams struck, sections of the station simply ceased to exist, leaving perfect spherical voids in their wake. Elena, Captain Mitchell, grabbed her arm as another blast rocked the station. We need to get to the emergency pods now. But Elena couldn't move. She watched as families ran through the corridors, carrying children and helping the elderly. Scientists abandoned their life's work to help others reach safety. Even as their world collapsed around them, humans were protecting each other. Why? She whispered, staring at Ambassador Kriegstall as he stood calmly in the chaos. Why are you doing this? The alien's laughter was like breaking glass. Because we can. Because you need to understand your place in the universe. You are nothing but clever animals who learn to build ships. The galaxy has no room for inferior species who dream of equality. The station shuddered as another section was erased from existence. Elena could see the emergency pods launching through the observation windows, tiny specks of light carrying the survivors into the darkness of space. Each pod held families, friends, colleagues, people who had come here believing in a better future. Captain Mitchell's security team fought desperately to hold the evacuation points. They knew they were outmatched, but they stood their ground so others could escape. Elena watched as young officers, barely out of the academy, faced impossible odds with courage that would have made Earth itself proud. The children's section is compromised. Someone shouted over the communication system. We need more time. Hold the line. Mitchell responded, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. No one gets left behind. Elena felt something break inside her as she watched the station die. This wasn't just an attack on Kepler Station. It was an attack on everything humanity represented. The Zephyrians weren't just destroying a building. They were trying to crush the human spirit itself. As the final evacuation pods launched, Elena found herself in the last transport to leave the station. Through the small window, she watched Kepler Station collapse into itself, taking with it the dreams of thousands. The Zephyrian ships hung in space like vultures, their weapons still charged, their hulls gleaming with satisfaction. Captain, the pod's pilot's voice was thick with tears. I'm picking up 153 survivors across all pods. The rest ... He couldn't finish the sentence. Elena closed her eyes as the numbers hit her. 3,000 souls had called Kepler Station home. Scientists, diplomats, families, children, all gone. 2,847 people had died not in battle, but in betrayal. They had died believing in peace, in cooperation, in the dream that different species could work together. The escape pods drifted through space, carrying the survivors toward the nearest human outpost. Behind them, a Zephyrian fleet began to move, their mission complete. But before they departed, Ambassador Kriegstahl sent one final message to the galaxy. Let this be a lesson to all who would challenge the natural order. Humanity sought to join their betters and found only the consequences of their arrogance. We leave their survivors as a reminder that some species are meant to serve, not to lead. The message was broadcast to every corner of known space. Alien species watched the footage of Kepler Station's destruction with horror and fear. Some condemned the Zephyrians, but others began to wonder if they had been wrong about humanity's potential. Elena sat in the cramped pod, holding the hand of a young girl whose parents hadn't made it to the evacuation zone. The child's eyes were empty, shocked beyond tears. Around them, the other survivors sat in stunned silence, processing the magnitude of what they had witnessed. Dr. Vasquez. Captain Mitchell's voice came through the communication system from another pod. We're receiving messages from Earth. The President wants a full report on what happened here. Elena looked out at the stars that had once represented hope and possibility. Now they seemed cold and distant, filled with civilizations that saw humanity as nothing more than clever animals. The Zephyrians had made their point clear. There was no place for humans among the stars. Tell them, she said quietly, tell them we remember. Every face, every name, every dream that died here today. We remember all of it. The escape pods continued their journey toward home, carrying with them the survivors of humanity's greatest betrayal. Behind them, the void where Kepler Station had stood served as a monument to innocence lost and trust destroyed. But in the depths of space, in the hearts of those who had witnessed the unthinkable, something else was being born. It would take time to grow, time to plan, time to prepare. The Zephyrians had taught humanity a lesson about the galaxy's true nature. Humanity was about to teach them one in return. The Silent Awakening 6. Months had passed since the Kepler Station massacre, and the galaxy had settled into a new rhythm. The Zephyrian Collective had expanded their territory, claiming 3 more systems and enslaving 2 minor species. Their message was clear. This was the natural order, and any who opposed it would share Kepler Station's fate. Admiral Sarah Chun stood in the command center of Luna Base, Earth's most classified military facility. The moon's far side had been hollowed out over decades, creating a vast underground complex that the galaxy had never known existed. Now it served as the heart of Project Lazarus, humanity's response to the Zephyrian threat. Admiral, the last. Ghost ship has completed its trials, Dr. Marcus Webb reported, his face gaunt from months of sleepless nights. As chief engineer of the project, he had pushed human technology beyond all previous limits. All 400 vessels are ready for deployment. Sarah nodded, her expression grim. The woman who had once believed in diplomatic solutions now understood that the galaxy only respected strength. What about the AI integration? The Aegis system is fully operational across the entire fleet, Marcus replied. Each ship is equipped with quantum consciousness matrices that can adapt to any tactical situation. The Zephyrians won't be able to predict our movements. The Ghost Fleet was humanity's greatest achievement and its best-kept secret. While the galaxy believed humans were cowering in their home system, Earth's brightest minds had been working around the clock to create something unprecedented. The ships used quantum stealth technology that rendered them invisible to all known detection methods. Their hulls were composed of adaptive metamaterials that could reshape themselves in real time. Most importantly, they were powered by contained antimatter reactors that gave them mobility and firepower. Beyond anything the galaxy had seen, Captain Lisa Rodriguez entered the command center, her new uniform bearing the insignia of the Ghost Fleet. At 35, she was the youngest admiral in human history, promoted for her innovative tactical thinking and unshakable determination. Admiral Chun, the fleet commanders are ready for final briefing. Sarah looked out through the command center's windows at the massive chamber beyond. Hundreds of sleek vessels hung suspended in the artificial gravity field, their surfaces rippling with contained energy. Each ship was a masterpiece of human engineering, designed not just to fight, but to inspire. They represented everything humanity could become when pushed to its limits. "Begin the briefing," Sarah commanded. The holographic display activated, showing a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red zones marked Zephyrian-controlled space, which had grown significantly since Kepler Station. Yellow areas showed systems under Zephyrian influence or threat. The blue zones representing free space seemed to shrink with each passing day. 6 months ago, the Zephyrians taught us that the galaxy operates on the principle of strength. Sarah began, her voice carrying to every ship in the fleet through quantum communication. They showed us that our dreams of peaceful cooperation were naive. They believed this lesson would break us. On the display, images from Kepler Station appeared. The ceremony hall filled with hope, the children's faces pressed against windows, the families embracing as they prepared to witness history. Then came the aftermath, the debris field, the escape pods, the survivors' testimonies. "They were wrong," Sarah continued. "Humanity doesn't break. We adapt. We learn. We become stronger." The display shifted to show technical specifications of the Ghost ships. Their capabilities were staggering. Faster than light travel without using conventional jump gates, weapons that could disrupt enemy shields at the quantum level, and defensive systems that could deflect any known energy weapon. "Today, we launch Operation Remembrance," Sarah announced. "Not as conquerors, but as protectors. We will show the galaxy that there is an alternative to Zephyrian tyranny." Captain Rodriguez stepped forward to address the fleet. "Each of you has volunteers from the survivors of Kepler Station. They chose to serve not for revenge, but for justice. Dr. Elena Vasquez herself serves as science officer aboard the flagship. She carries the memories of everyone we lost." The fleet commanders listened in silence as the scope of the operation became clear. This wasn't just about stopping the Zephyrians. It was about proving that smaller species could stand against seemingly impossible odds. Every ship would emerge simultaneously in different Zephyrian systems, not to destroy, but to demonstrate that humanity could strike anywhere, anytime. "The Zephyrians have been monitoring our communications," Sarah continued. "They believe we're finished, that we're hiding in our home system like frightened animals. Intelligence reports suggest they're planning to attack Earth itself within the next 2 months." The anger in the command center was palpable, but it was controlled anger, the kind that forged determination instead of recklessness. These officers had spent months preparing for this moment, and they were ready. "We launch in 6 hours," Sarah announced. "Remember, we're not just representing humanity. We're representing every species that has ever been told they're not good enough, not strong enough, not worthy enough to determine their own fate." As the briefing ended, the fleet began its final preparations. In the depths of space, far from prying eyes, humanity's ghost fleet prepared to reveal itself to the galaxy. But first, they had one more message to send. On the bridge of the flagship Remembrance, Dr. Elena Vasquez stood at the science station she had requested. The ship's captain had initially been reluctant to bring a civilian into combat, but Elena had insisted. She needed to be there when humanity announced its return to the galaxy. "Dr. Vasquez?" Captain Rodriguez approached her. "Are you ready for this?" Elena nodded, her hand steady as she prepared the communication array. I've been ready for 6 months. Every night I see their faces, the children who died, the families who trusted in peace. Today, we honor their memory, the Remembrance. And its sister ships slipped through space like shadows, their quantum drives propelling them toward their targets. Behind them, Earth continued its charade of weakness. Diplomatic channels remained open, but ineffective, and the galaxy continued to believe that humanity had learned its lesson. General Vexthel of the Zephyrian military stood in his command center, reviewing plans for the final assault on Earth. The humans had proven themselves to be exactly what he had expected: weak, frightened, and easily broken. Their pathetic diplomatic protests had been ignored, their calls for justice laughed at by the galactic community. General, his aide reported, our scouts confirm that human military activity remains minimal. Their ships are either destroyed or hidden. Earth's defenses are outdated and insufficient. Vexthel's crystalline features gleamed with satisfaction. Excellent. We'll give them another month to contemplate their helplessness, then finish what we started at Kepler Station. The galaxy will remember what happens to species that forget their place. But as the Zephyrian general made his plans, something extraordinary was happening across the galaxy. In 47 different systems, space itself seemed to shiver as reality bent around emerging starships. The ghost fleet decloaked simultaneously, their appearance coordinated to the nanosecond. The ships that revealed themselves were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They seemed to be made of liquid starlight, their hulls flowing and adapting as they moved. Energy signatures that should have been impossible radiated from there. Cores, most unnerving of all, they broadcast a simple message in every known language. We remember, we endure, we protect. On the Zephyrian homeworld, alarms began to sound as reports flooded in from across their territory. Human ships had appeared in their most secure systems, passed through their defensive networks undetected, and positioned themselves in perfect tactical formations. The vessel's technological capabilities were beyond anything in the Zephyrian. Database, impossible. General Vexthel snarled as the reports reached him. Humans don't possess this technology. Our intelligence confirmed they were broken, defeated, but the evidence was undeniable. Humanity had not only survived the Kepler Station massacre, they had used it as motivation to transcend their previous limitations. The Ghost Fleet didn't attack, didn't threaten, didn't demand surrender. Instead, they simply existed, proving that reports of humanity's demise had been greatly exaggerated. President Maria Santos appeared on communication channels across the galaxy, her message broadcast from the Bridge of the Remembrance. Behind her, the image of the Ghost Fleet spread across the stars created a backdrop that spoke of power held in check by wisdom. Citizens of the galaxy, 6 months ago, the Zephyrian Collective taught us that the universe is not a place of peace and cooperation. They showed us that strength is the only language some species understand. We listened. We learned. We adapted. The broadcast reached species that had been conquered by the Zephyrians, worlds that lived in fear of their expansion, civilizations that had given up hope of resistance. For the first time in months, they saw an alternative to surrender. Humanity does not seek to replace Zephyrian tyranny with our own, President Santos continued. We offer something different: protection for those who cannot protect themselves, hope for those who have lost it, and proof that no species is destined to be a slave. On the Bridge of the Remembrance, Elena watched as the galaxy's response began to pour in. Enslaved species were sending secret messages of support. Free worlds were asking for protection. Even some Zephyrian colonies were reporting civil unrest as their subject populations realized that resistance was possible. Captain, Elena reported, we're receiving over 10,000 messages from across the galaxy. Species that have been silent for decades are asking for help. Captain Rodriguez smiled grimly. Then we'd better get to work. Helm set course for the Rigel system. The Zephyrians have been strip mining the whole world of the Aquari people. Time to give them a choice. Leave peacefully or be removed. The Ghost Fleet began to move, not as invaders, but as liberators. They had learned the galaxy's lesson about strength, but they applied it with humanity's greatest gift, the understanding that true strength comes from protecting others, not from crushing them. General Vexthal watched his empire begin too. Fracture as world after world requested human protection. The species he had dismissed as inferior vermin had somehow become the most powerful force in the galaxy. Worse, they were using that power to inspire others, to show that the Zephyrian way was not the only way. Order all fleets to converge on Earth, he commanded desperately. If we can destroy their homeworld, we can end this rebellion before it spreads. But as the Zephyrian armada began to move toward Earth, they discovered that the humans had one final surprise waiting for them. The Ghost Fleet had not revealed its full strength. Hidden throughout the galaxy, thousands more ships began to decloak, their quantum signatures creating a web of protection around every world that had asked for humanity's help. The message was clear. Attack one, and you attack them all. The age of Zephyrian dominance was over, replaced by something the galaxy had never seen before, a species that had found strength through unity, power through protection, and victory through the simple act of remembering that every life has value. Elena stood on the bridge of the remembrance as the Ghost Fleet took its positions throughout the galaxy. Through the viewports, she could see the stars that had once seemed so cold and hostile. Now they seemed to shine with promise again, each one representing a world where beings could live free from fear. Dr. Vasquez, Captain Rodriguez approached her. Any regrets about leaving the laboratory behind? Elena smiled, thinking of the colleagues who had died at Kepler Station, the children who had trusted in humanity's dream of peace, the families who had believed in a better future. They had not died in vain. Their sacrifice had awakened something in humanity that the galaxy had never seen before. No regrets, Captain, she replied. Sometimes the greatest discoveries aren't made in laboratories. Sometimes they're made among the stars, when ordinary people decide to do extraordinary things. The Ghost Fleet spread across the galaxy like a constellation of hope, each ship carrying the memory of Kepler Station and the promise that such a tragedy would never happen again. Humanity had learned the galaxy's lesson about strength and taught it one in return about how that strength should be used. The age of the silent victims was over. The age of the protectors had begun.